Hi, Tom here. In this week's Circle Line Art School video, I'll show you one way to draw a tube train in a station. To start, draw a horizontal line slightly above the middle point of your paper, and then draw a vanishing point slightly to the right of the center on the horizon line. Next, we can draw two lines coming towards us for the platform of the station, coming from the vanishing point all the way to the base of your page, and they're getting wider as they come towards us. Next, on the left-hand side, we can draw a horizontal line for the base of the front of the tube train. Then we can draw two vertical lines to build up the structure of the front of the tube train, or subway train. Then the top of the subway train will be a semicircle, and that should be higher than the horizon line. Next, we can draw another receding line to the vanishing point from the top of the semicircle of the curve of the front of the train. Now, for the front of the train, we can divide it into a variety of different shapes for the various parts of the train. For your train, I think it would probably be sensible to make sure that any shapes that you draw are symmetrical, so they're the same on the left and the right of the front of the train. So I'm going to draw three windows, one central rectangle and then two windows, one on either side, and then some markings and some shapes for where the lights or the connecting parts of the train might be. Once you've got some of the basic structure of this, you could darken some of the lines and then at that stage add even more details. So, as with most drawings, start with the basic shapes and then add details towards the end. So most of this drawing isn't really started yet, but we're drawing the details of the front of the train sort of to get it out of the way at the beginning. Because the front of the train is in the foreground, we can get into the details quite quickly once we've got the basic shape of the train in place in the drawing. So for any sort of mechanical shape, oftentimes if it's a line drawing, it's quite useful just to double up the lines so that they become two parallel lines close by next to each other, and that will give some sort of thickness, like as a frame or construction around the shapes that you're drawing. It will make them look more solid. You don't need to do it to all of the shapes, but it would probably be a good idea to do it to some of the shapes. So once you've got the basic sort of structure of the front of the train with some details, then we can move on to the side of the train and add another line from the top vertical on the right hand side of the tube train to the vanishing point, and then we can draw a series of more vertical lines which get closer together as they go away from us and towards the vanishing point. As this is a drawing in one point perspective, we only need to use one vanishing point. To draw the curves for the top of the various carriages of the train, the various cars of the train, we can just copy the first curve on the right for all the receding curves. Next, we could draw the train track in which the train is on, and again, because it's receding lines which are all parallel to each other, all of these receding lines will go to our single vanishing point. So the front of the train doesn't have any receding lines, and therefore we can just draw the shapes as they would be. But for most of the other shapes in this drawing, if they're receding, they're going to be distorted, they're going to be getting smaller as they go towards the vanishing point, which is directly in front of us, the viewer. If you'd like to learn more about drawing in perspective, please visit my website, circlelineartschool.com, where you can find more details about my online drawing courses. Next, we could draw the actual tunnel, which would be in the distance at the end of the platform, and that will cover up the vanishing point, because the vanishing point is in the center of the tunnel. The top of the tunnel has a curved surface. Next, we can divide up the various carriages so that they have doorways. And I'm going to have it so that this train is open. So these doors, which we can just repeat, so each time you draw one shape, if it's repeatable, you just keep making the shapes as they go away to the horizon line and the vanishing point. And then to show that these are doorways which are open, we can draw a horizontal line at the base corner of each door, and then I'll put some details within the carriage, within the car of each of the tube trains. Next, we could add a window to the front of the train, and to do that we'll have two lines receding to the vanishing point, and then a line which curves at the top as it curves around the curved surface of the top of the train, but then becomes straight and vertical as it goes lower to the halfway point of the train. And then we can just darken these lines, and we've got a sort of wrapped window for each of the carriages. Next, you might want to add a few more details to the front of the train. Not really sure what they have, but just add a few things. And then for the train tracks upon which the train sits, they tend to be raised, and the live tracks have connectors which we can draw. Once you're ready, we could start to add some tonal values. For this drawing, I'm just using a 4B pencil, and we can make some shading starting right at the base of the train, as dark as the pencil goes, and then as the tone comes towards us, as the shading comes towards us, just use less pressure and the tonal grade will become less. And then it would probably be useful on the left hand side of the train to draw a shadow, a cast shadow onto the wall, as this is going to be a train in a station, which is a tunnel under the ground, so the wall would be on the left. And then we can make that really quite dark where it touches the side of the train, and then it's graded as it comes towards us. So we've got vertical grade and horizontal grade. Next, we could add some graded shading to the curved surface of the door, starting with a dark tone, pressing firmly with the pencil, and then less firmly, and then leave a little gap. And then we can repeat the same graded tone again, once or twice, to get to the base of the train as it reaches the platform. So again, once we've got one technique that works okay, then we can repeat that for all the other areas in this drawing in one-point perspective. So each of the carriages can have the same sort of graded metallic tone on the side. Next, I think it would be a good idea to visually bring the front of the train forward by making a stronger contrast of light and dark in the detailing of the train. So to do that, we could create darker edges around the train. Anything that has a strong contrast generally will seem like it's closer to us, and things that have less of a contrast, they tend to look like they're further away from us, the viewer. So the front of the train, we could draw in some of the darker tones. And then over time, you might like to consider adding some mid-tones to it as well. For my drawing, I'm going to not really shade in the windows. So the windows are going to be brighter than the front of the train. But I'm sort of doing it step by step, blocking in areas, deciding which area will be what tone. And then I can smudge these tones with the side of an eraser later on, so that it becomes flatter and more even. But for now it's fine just to do a sort of quick sketch. Once you've got that in place, then on the left hand side, the wall on the left hand side, having the lower part, we could shade that in as a mid-tone, a tone between light and dark. And then for the actual platform of the railway station, we can draw some lines that are receding from us, the viewer, towards the vanishing point. You could use a ruler, or you could try drawing them freehand. And then these lines, we can divide them horizontally next. So again, once you've got one horizontal line, and this horizontal line, it would be good if it's parallel to the horizontal line of the horizon that we drew at the beginning, and also parallel to the top of the paper that you're drawing on too. And then these horizontal lines will get closer together as they become further away from us, the viewer. I might add one more line at the front too. Next, we could start to add the other areas which enclose the train. So we could add a line receding, which is slightly above the train on the left, going to the vanishing point, and then another line on the right. So this creates, on the right hand side of the drawing now, we have the wall which is next to the platform. And then we can draw two upright vertical lines and create a doorway, and the top and the bottom of the doorway will be receding towards our vanishing point. But the vertical lines will stay vertical and the horizontal lines will stay horizontal. Next, we can repeat that as a smaller doorway in the platform, but further away from us, the viewer. So in one-point perspective, it's good to remember that the single vanishing point is towards the center of the drawing, and it's the direction in which we're looking. If you'd like to learn more about how to draw, particularly how to draw using perspective, please consider joining one of my online drawing courses. You'll find more details at circlelineartschool.com. For the rest of the drawing, we will add some details and some more shading, and some semicircles for the top of the roof. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please do so. And if you'd like to support Circle Line Art School, please visit circlelineartschool.com, where you can find details of my online drawing courses.